Hey everyone, this is the deck profile for the Prophecies. Prophecies are mostly main spellcasters. They rely on the spellbook spell card archetype. First off, we have Magician of Faith. This card allows me to get back a spell card back from a graveyard to my hand. Then we have two Stoke of Prophecies. My search. I do plan on getting a third one. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, I can add one level 3 or lower Prophecy type monster from my one level 3 Prophecy type monster from my deck to my hand. Next we have the Magical Undertaker. This card is sent to when it's flipped or sent to the graveyard, I get to special summon one level 4 or lower spellcaster type monster from my graveyard, which is a nice little way of getting back my combos up and running. Next we have Spellbook Magician of Prophecies. When he's summoned, flip summon, or special summon when this card is normal summon, or flip summon, it allows me to add one space. I can add one Spellbook spell card from my deck to my hand. I believe I have two of you, but no. Next up we have Justice of Prophecy. This card allows me, when activating a Spellbook spell card, allows me to tribute it at the end phase to add one Spellbook spell card from my deck and one
Stupid sick. Of all times.
This card allows me to add a level 5 or higher light or dark spellcast type with one Spellbook spell card from my deck to my hand. I can only use one once per turn. Next we have Hermit of Prophecy. This card is a good way to get a beat stick up and running. For each Spellbook spell card I activate, this card gains 2 levels and 300 attack points. So also it's a good way to get my XYZs out. Then we have Next we have two Amoros of Prophecies. This card is face up on the field. I can reveal one Spellbook spell card, special summon one level 4 or lower spellcast type monster from my hand. Next we have Fool of Prophecy, another way to get my Spellbook spell cards in the graveyard. Also to get another special summon. When this card, his effect activates, if I have 5 or more Spellbook spell cards in the graveyard, or by sending one from the deck to the graveyard, I can special, and if there's 5 at the end turn, I can tribute them, special summon one level 5 dark spellcaster or higher from my deck and special summon it. Next we have Temperance of Prophecy, the reverse of Fool of Prophecy. When I activate a Spellbook spell card, I can tribute this one, special summon a light or dark spellcaster type monster from my level 5 or higher dark spellcaster type light or dark spellcaster type monster from my deck onto the field, which is a good way to get my giant beat sticks. Again, I forgot to switch this back into place. Another Hermit of Prophecies. And another level 3 is Gaga Girl. This is when I have Gaga Magician already on the field. I can target him and make her the same level as him, which is a good way to get most of my XYZs out. Next we have Gaga Magician. When he's on the field summoned, if I summon him onto the field, he uses effect, I can make him any level, which is a good way to get my giant XYZs out. Next we have two Strength of Prophecies. This is a very good card because if I have a Spellbook spell card in the graveyard, I can target one spellcast type monster on the field. I shouldn't say just my field, but I will target mine usually. Targeted gains a level plus 500 attack and sends a Spellbook spell card back from my graveyard to my deck, which is a good way to keep cards out and a good way to keep my XYZs going. Next, two Chariot of Prophecies, a pretty good beat stick for a level 4. I can send one Spellbook spell card from my hand to the graveyard, add one spellcast type monster from my graveyard to my hand. Next, we have the Zigzagshin Magician and Zigzagshin Magician. These are my pendulum monsters, but they're there for another reason, mostly their effects. First off, we have Zigzagshin Magician for her pendulum effect, which is once per turn I can target one face-up XYZ monster I control and one level 5 or higher monster I control. The XYZ becomes that level and I can use it as material for XYZ. And him, it's once per turn I can target one XYZ monster I control. It can be used as XYZ material for XYZ rank, and if it's where the level, even this card leaves the field. So yeah, this is a pretty good way to getting also pendulums out, which is from 4 to 7, which is most of them. First we have as tributes Emperor of Prophecy. I don't use him much, but he's still a decent card. If he's face up on the field, I can banish both one face up spellcaster monster I control, except this card, and one spellbook card from my graveyard. Target one face up monster my opponent controls and gain control of it for the turn. But I believe it cannot yeah, that's it. You can only use the effect of Emperor of Prophecy once per turn. This card cannot attack though. Yeah, not so bad. Next up, one of the good cards I like a lot, Reaper of Prophecy. Usually I end up using him with Fool of Prophecy or Temperance of Prophecy. Depending on how, when he's normal summon or special summon, and depending on how many spellbook spell cards I have in the graveyard, he gains different effects. 3 or more, he gains 600 attack. 4 or more, I can add a spellbook spell card from my deck to my hand. And 5 or more, I can special summon one level 5 or higher dark spellcast type, which goes into a combo of one of these two usually. Either Destroyer Prophecy, which is a pretty good beat stick monster, 25 attack, 12 defense. Also, if he's in the graveyard, I can banish 3 spellbook spell cards from the graveyard, special summon them. And the other one I usually use as combo with Reaper is Wheel of Prophecy. When he special summons via the effect of a prophecy monster, any banished spellbook spell cards I can add them back to the deck, and the others I don't, they go straight to the graveyard, which is also a good way of keeping them in the graveyard. Next, the mostly main monster of the deck, what a lot of people do, is High Priestess of Prophecy. This is a pretty good monster. It's the Dark Magician of this deck because it's exactly the same stats. If I reveal 3 spellbook spell cards from my hand, I can special summon her. And once per turn, I can banish a spellbook spell card from either my hand or my graveyard and destroy 1 card on the field. Usually people split the decks 2 ways, either the darks or lights, and use her or Reaper as the main monsters. And then the true ace of the deck, World of Prophecy. This is a bitch to get out, I will admit. It can only be summoned, if this card was special summoned via a spellcaster or a spellbook card, I can target 2 spell cards in my graveyard out of my hand. If I do this via this effect, reveal 4, I nuke the field except for this card, which is a good way of clearing the field. First, we'll go to the traps, then we'll add the spell cards. Dust Tornado, again a nice little card to destroy spells and traps. Also can set other cards. Bottomless Trap Hole, good way of getting rid of my opponent's power monsters very quickly, unless it has a way to stop it. Magician's Circle, obviously for only spellcaster decks. Transmigration of Prophecy, I can add 2 cards from my graveyard to my deck, or my opponent's, but usually will go for mine. Hidden Spellbook, this adds 2 spellbook spell cards back from my graveyard to my deck. Call the Haunted, special summoning a monster from my graveyard. And Mirror Force, a good way to get rid of my opponent's field. And onto the spell cards. This is where it gets longer. Spellbook of Light, this is similar to Call the Haunted, except I have to banish a spell cast type monster from my graveyard to my graveyard. I get special summon one. It also gains that level that monster is banished. I know this is banned, but I don't usually keep it in here, but it's banned, but I still would like to use it once in a while. Spellbook of Judgment. This is a very powerful card. I activate this, and for every spellbook spell card I activate afterwards, this card I can add the same amount of spellbook spell cards from my deck to my hand and a monster with that exact same amount. So using 5 allows me to add 5 spellbook spell cards and a monster of level 5 or lower. Spellbook Star Hull. This is pretty good way to keep your spellcasters powered up. For each spellbook spell card activated, it gains a counter, and it gains 100 attack for each counter. So this way you can have your monsters rolling. I've once gotten this up to 20 counters. Spellbook of Secrets, a good little search card. I can add 1 spellbook spell card from my deck to my hand. The field card of the deck, the Grand Spellbook Tower, which is a good way to keeping your spellbook spell cards recycled. Targeting 1 from the graveyard, adding to the bottom deck, then drawing. And if this card leaves the field anyways, and I have spellbooks in my graveyard, I can add a spellcaster of that same level. Spellbook Library of Crescent, a nice little search card. Spellbook of Fate. This is a good way to either getting rid of a monster on the field, getting a trap card right in the field, or banishing a card right straight up. Spellbook of Eternity. I should be running 2 of these, but one it is it targets a spellbook that is banished and adds it back to my hand. Spellbook of Wisdom. This is a good card to keep your spellcasters alive and immune to either spell cards or trap cards. I usually choose trap cards because my opponent can't do much afterwards. Spellbook Library of Helisphere. This is a good way of getting another searches out. Spellbook of Power increases a spellcast type monsters by 1,000 and allows me to add a spellbook spell card from my deck to my hand. 2 Spellbook of Miracles. When I have an XYZ monster in my graveyard and up to 2 banished spell cards, I can summon that one and add those spellbook spell cards as material to them. And finally, 2 Spellbook of Masters. This is a good way to keep my spell cards recycled and using other spell cards that were used in the graveyard as effects. Now for the XYZs, I don't have much, but I do plan on getting more. First we have Slacker Magician, a nice little monster, 21 defense. Once per turn can be destroyed by battle, and if it's attacked, I have to remove 1 material. But that's not what she's used for usually. Shining Elf, a nice little XYZ, 1600 attack, 1000 defense, and my opponent would special summon a monster. Normal summons or special summons a monster. I can detach 1 XYZ material from this card. That monster loses 500 attack, so this way I can keep the monster alive. This is where I use Slacker Magician over for Downward Magician. I can use a level 2 or lower rank monster, and it could just pop her right on it. Every time she also gains 200 attack for each material, and she does piercing. Next we have Empress of Prophecy. This card is a very good one. I can detach 1 XYZ material, reveal, shuffle my deck, and reveal top 5 cards in my deck. I can destroy for my opponent's spells and traps for each spell and trap cards, spell books I revealed. And finally, we have Hemisphere of Prophecy. This is the opposite of Empress. For detaching material for each spellbook spell card in my graveyard, I could destroy 1 monster or trap. This one's spells and traps, and this one's a monster. Sorry. So yeah, that's the prophecies. Hope you guys enjoyed and enjoyed the duel.